This time in the Magic Kitchen, we are joined by Melissa Gutierrez.
I'm Leandra Witchwood.
And I'm Elyse Wells.
And welcome to the Magic Kitchen podcast, where we talk about magic, kitchen witchcraft, herbs,
and everything in between.
Magic Kitchen podcast is funded and supported by thewitchwoodteahouse.com, offering a variety of hand-blended loose leaf teas as well as loose herbs for all of your ritual, spell work, wellness, and everyday enjoyment needs. If you would like to support this podcast while sipping a great cup of tea, head over to thewitchwoodteahouse.com and find the magic that's in store for you.
Melissa is a transformational somatic coach, witch, and trauma-informed Dom. You can learn more about her at melgutierrez.com. And we are really excited to hear about what you do. So just jump right in. Tell our listeners about you and the work that you are doing.
I feel really blessed to have this opportunity because I have been able to present some of the work in the summits and Leandra's workshops. And I feel blessed to be included in that way. And there's a lot of confusion still around somatics. And so I just want to break it up. That's why I like to now present my title that way, because it makes the conversation easier. Somatics and the Greek for soma, the word for body, is just about movement that we acknowledge when moving in the body affects the mental body and the emotional body. Now, in my opinion, the spiritual and energetic body as well. But it's enough to just be like, hey, whether you're doing yoga, whether you're working, whether you're personal training or strength training, whether you're doing Pilates, whether you're going for a walk, everything you do when moving your body is going to have an impact in other aspects of your humanity. And so when you work with the intention of creating a different state or changing states or healing trauma or just being able to rebirth yourself in the way you want, the body is critical. And I think we're seeing that come around in modern day talk therapy, because a lot of the people who come to me now are like, my therapist said I should be less anxious. I agree. How? And I'm like, right. That's what we have to translate into the first temple. The body's the first temple of manifestation. So that's what I'm always saying. So that's the transformational somatic coaching part of it. And then when I say transformational coach, I don't have to work hard at that. Once somebody's moving in their bodies, transformation happens. It's not like anything I have power or jurisdiction over. So the transformation is theirs. It's just having somebody help sort of get through the minutia and be a guide in that, I think. Also, the snake oil salesmen who are out there, and women, particularly in the fitness industry, that I'm more than happy to take down with their misinformation and disinformation. So that's part of that activist already feel. And then witch, I'm in imperfect company. That can mean so many things. And I always acknowledge my background. I'm Mexican and Puerto Rican. I do a lot of Mexican influenced death cult worship known as La Santa Muerte. I grew up with Santeria. I grew up doing exorcisms and house cleanings of the spirits before I even knew what that was. And then I had the Mexican Catholic side. So for little Melissa, who didn't have baggage around what she was being exposed to, I was like, oh, this is just how people do dead. We do dead this way. We do death over here. So death magic and sex magic have been a real part of my work for the last couple of years, because the death stuff is not frightening for me. Like my friend Bonesy, he's always with me. And that's totally easy and normal. And then the sex magic that has come around more and more, where that we could attach more of that to the Dom stuff. But whenever you're working with your body, sex and death are always going to come up. Whenever you're working with death magic, sex is going to come up. Whenever you're working with sex magic, death magic's going to come up. But if we want to isolate to whatever degree we can some experiences, then when I'm doing the Dom work, it is to elevate a container where you can explore taboo subject matter, power dynamics, or simply sensation integration. And this is where the healing of past trauma can happen. So I have a lot of clear boundaries on how I do that work to ensure the safety of my clients.
That's beautiful. And
It
I'm thinking
is.
too, like we're coming into Samhain time. We
Mhm.
are in the Witch's New Year in the next few weeks here as this episode is releasing. And I think that's what a lot of people that's the energy of the moment. Not only always like this time of year has that energy, but also politically, socially, environmentally, there's a lot of cycles ending. Like
Yeah.
I truly do
Yeah.
feel, even though it feels like everything's getting worse and worse and worse, it's because it's an ending. Like we are in a time of crisis because things are, it's a slow motion bomb blowing up.
Yeah.
Um, and I like how you said that sex work sexual
Mhm.
healing,
Mhm. Mhm.
and death are coming in together at the
Always.
same as two sides of the coin. That's how I teach goddess work as well.
Mm.
Anana's my main goddess, and she has guided me over the years. We've worked together for 11 years now. She's guided me through uh not only like the academic historical researchable, like she is connected to dozens and dozens of darker goddesses, but
Mhm.
also the way that these goddesses have always evolved to help us through that as both creatrix and destroyer. It is always life and death. And what is sex if not life in its purest form? The orgasm is the little death brought about by the life
Right. Right.
of it all. So I'd love for you to speak more on that. Like, how do you integrate sex and death in both as you do this work?
Le petit mot, as the French
Yeah.
call the little orgasm.
That's exactly what I was thinking as we were talking about sex and death, le petit mort.
Le petit mot. I love the French for their constant poetical exuberance. What I would like to answer that question or just speak a little bit on how that is integrated, those energies for me, or the framework I like to view them through from a scientific one. I'm a very scientifically grounded and minded witch, which I know can sound crazy to people because my primary orientation is as a mystic and a seeker. And I will leave this dimension as often as possible to take a break. And if people aren't in a practice where they can leave this dimension and take breaks, you need to get on it because it's a lot.
For sure.
But it was like, get the fuck out of here. So like take breaks. I love hanging out with dead people. They're way less complicated and frightening than humans, the alive ones right now. So if we think about what we know to be true, immutable truth in the scientific community, which I know that may even be somewhat controversial to bring up. And that's okay. I would like for people to hear this with an open mind and know that for a long time, humans have been trying to understand how this works, life, and who we are in it. And one of the working theories that we rely upon in that, like gravity, which can be considered a working theory until otherwise disproven. We do pretty well listening to it as real as opposed to not. But we know that energy never goes away. Right. So there's the trope that we lean on a lot of like your consciousness and your energy just gets transmuted somewhere else. And yeah, we can spin that many ways, but that's also truth. And so when you see how life and birth and rebirth and death is a constant cycle at all times. Right now, I'm dealing with a cold. My immune system is engaging in a battle. And I can't wait for the bacteria inside of me to fucking die. And that will be the death magic that I am like, yeah, this one. You know what I mean? Like you can break this down on so many levels, including if you go big, if you go macro, right? Like I just went micro into the body. And if I start going macro, I can look at the torus, the black hole that we know is always connected to a white hole on the other side. And it's this never ending donut of energy moving through these two portals. That we're the donut.
Yes. We are the altar. We are the crucible.
Yes. Yes.
I love that. Yeah, we do a lot of that. Like how can we bring the science into the magic? Because I will always maintain that magic is just what science can't explain yet. It has gotten there time and time again. In
Right.
our world, there's so much science that was magic not even
Yeah.
100 years ago.
There's something I say to my students all the time. Yesterday's magic is today's science. And the more, so like neuroscience, it's in its infancy. We do not understand the brain fully. We don't understand consciousness fully. But there are plenty of scientists out there that are now able to speak about what they know, because what we've learned is science is dogmatic and it's elitist. So they're not allowing some of these revelations that are could be considered woo to come forward, like the mind body spirit connection. And there's and then the idea of working with spirits, like being this dangerous thing, or being able to contact spirits. And there are sciences coming around proving that we can speak to the dead. We can. And I'm sorry, every experience that I've ever had in working with spirits, except for two, it's been a safe experience. It's been pleasant. You know, tapping out and going to the through the veil just to take a break, like that's valid. It's like a little vacation. Just okay, I'm done. I need to go talk to someone else about this for now. And whether it be the dream world or meditation or through herbs and that sort of thing. And yeah, that I mean, we were just talking about this. This is why it's fresh in my mind. When you brought that up, I was like, oh, I was like, this is so fresh, because last night I was just teaching one of the lessons in my Witch's Grove container, and we were talking about the cultural taint that comes with working with spirits, working with the dead, working with um plant spirits, the fae, that sort of thing. There's a lot of folklore, there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of danger. Oh, don't touch that Ouija board because you don't know what you're going to summon, type thing. And it brought in one of my plant messengers that has been speaking to me heavily the past week, and that's stinging nettle. And what stinging nettle teaches us in this whole grand scheme of things is that it's rewarded and protected against negativity if we choose to be. We can set those boundaries. We can have courage, but we also have to develop our resilience. Like your cold, that's your body building up a resilience against the viral infection and then the bacterial infection. But it's also healing through these hardships. So this bubble that is about to burst, that we're feeling politically, socially, it's teaching us resilience. And that's such a valid thing in all the work that all three of us do together and separately.
I feel like I'm in the perfect place. And also, and thank you, Leander, for because I was like, I use so many terms sometimes interchangeably that I'm like, oh, my cold is most likely viral, not bacterial. And I appreciate that, because we are in a space that is sought after because people are dissatisfied with the options before them. That's why I continue to occupy this witchcraft space by myself, why I try to invite others into it, because it's a place to get away from dogma, including the dogma of scientific elitism, where you're not allowed to have a scientific discovery impact your spirituality. And I think that's so grossly disruptive to our personal evolution as humans. Humans have been trying to figure all of this out for a while. And I'm with Leandra on that. Although I definitely have cultural programming around the Ouija board. Like, I will still watch a horror movie and the Ouija board comes out and I'm like, fucking white kids, like, don't know what
Don't touch
you're
that.
doing. So we have to acknowledge, I think that what we're also pointing out is the divide between what can be considered functional science and magic is tainted by the cultural dogma of religiosity, social control,
Mhm.
um, fear. It's tragic. It's tragic to me that human beings, so many are, and this goes right to the politics, are so afraid to examine what's inside of themselves. We have been taught that certain thoughts are wrong. We have been taught that certain emotions are wrong. And for anybody listening, I don't mean to trigger the misunderstanding of I'm saying, oh, you can think like a Nazi and be fine. No, I have defined lines and boundaries and rules, totally. But I've done the work to know and develop enough perspective as an observer within my body and within my mindscape that I'm going to have certain thoughts that I don't in my spirit align with. And I have to be able to take responsibility for that cultural training that has tainted me as well and continues to try. And that's why I do the meditation, the talking with the dead, the other things that we all entertain here, because that's a skill set you have to develop. We can't take for granted that people go, "Ooh, what was that? Ew, that was icky. That wasn't even my thought. Where did that come from? Let me go into my observer's mind. And from this perspective, let me see where I got that intrusive thought." That's advanced. And when you live your life from that perspective all the time, we forget that not everybody else has the luxury of time or practices in their lives to start developing that kind of perspective. But I think everything that we do here and what I try to do in transformational coaching in themselves, like using the body, is how we can start to create more and more of that perspective for other people without trying to be hierarchical or critical. I don't want
Right.
be condescending, I mean.
Yeah. And to educate without dismissing different ideas, different perspectives. There's the Temple of the Mind, there's the astral workshops that do come with advanced practice. And that's not something I teach to my beginner students, not because they can't handle it, but because it takes practice and that's deeper work. So I'm not going to launch a new student in my coven or in one of my containers into the deeper work and be like, okay, here it is, go have it. Because without doing the forework, the work ahead of time to, okay, analyze first. Let's get comfortable with the discomfort first. Then we'll go into these veiled astral planes where we can work on it in a deeper soul level. And yeah, it's I love that you put that into the air because now people know. Now we can talk about it.
We can stop pretending, but also what Leandra is demonstrating is ethics in practice. Whenever you're facilitating an experience, it doesn't matter what you teach, it doesn't matter what you facilitate. When you facilitate an experience for other people, there's a amount of responsibility in knowing that even working with consenting adults, if we're going to try to do something, you have to be equipped with a certain amount of practice. And so a really great example is I'm very, very happy right now that it's very trendy on Instagram to talk about sex magic and sex magic for manifestation. And I think that's great because I will take it. It's like when people come up to me and are like, "Can I get a 6-pack in 3 months?" And I'm like, "Sure." I mean, like, obviously no, but if you're motivated and there's a fire there, let's go. Let's take it. I'll take whatever you give me to start showing truth. But when people talk about sex magic and they want to start practicing it seriously, then I have to say, okay, nested in that terminology, like a matryoshka, like a Russian set of dolls, is the capacity to sense subtle energy. Can you do that? Oh, okay. Now let's talk about the capacity to hold a vision for what you want to manifest that you will then imbue that energy with, but you can't lose that vision while you're getting turned on. By the way, is your body healthy enough for you to feel turned on? Do you feel comfortable with your sexuality? Because this is direct magic all about that. And so I love a sex magic class. And by the way, there are people who do this. Layla Martin, I love her work as a tantrika because she has removed the power dynamics of abuse by saying, you have you don't need anybody else. You don't have to sleep with your guru. You don't have to give them that performative, like women reclaiming these spaces for that reason, right?
Yes.
And so we want people to have these things. We want people to practice, but we also want them to understand that they're for their own safety, for their own wellness, or simply because if the risk isn't that high, because if people don't want to, because there's not a huge risk here entertaining these things. But if you don't want to waste your fucking time, sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah. And
Okay.
that's
Curse, go ahead.
exactly it. That's exact. So at the core of all of this, if people are like, "Oh, that's true. Oh, I don't know. Oh, yeah, I actually haven't thought much about turn on and how my focus is thrown by that," or, "Oh, actually, what is turn on? Oh, I don't really get turned on." Like, there's a lot of knock-on thoughts that I can hear our listeners having here. And what it all starts with is awareness. And trying to engage with your awareness alone is I'm gonna actually try and go with a sweeping generalization here. It's kind of almost impossible. If you stay in the vacuum of, oh, I'm a solo practitioner, your practice is never going to deepen. You can be a solo practitioner forever, but if you never seek out mentorship, retreats, classes, groups, public ritual, festivals, if you literally
Yeah.
never ever engage with others, in any way. There's a million ways to do it, but you are never going to even be aware of what you're not aware of because it's just that's how awareness works. You need
Yeah.
other people to mirror and reflect and trigger. People are so terrified of their triggers. I get thrilled now when I'm triggered because I'm like, "Whoa, hey, what is that? Let's take a look-see." Because it used to be a lot. Like honestly, when I look back at my beginning witchcraft journals, like my early little books of shadows, I used to have so many opinions about what was right. And now I believe almost nine. I was an atheist witch. Think about that. Like that's crazy. Like people know me now. Like think about me, little 17-year-old me, like rolling my eyes at deity books talking about spirits as real. I'm like, oh no, it's just energies. What the heck is just energies, little Elise? Like literally so cute. I love looking back at what triggered me because it was exactly what I needed. It was exactly what I needed to follow. The women I'm jealous of. I recently had a trigger for the first time in a while. Dakota Johnson. I saw she was in a movie with Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal, and I was literally like, why is it always her? And I was like, oh, let's take a look-see. And I realized it's because she's kind of like a normal looking person. And I always thought I couldn't have someone that attractive, Chris Evans level or Pedro Pascal level, because I wasn't, I mean, I was overweight. She's not like, but still, there's that kind of like, normal girls don't get guys like that. So then when I see normal girls get guys like that, I'm like, oh, no. Like it was this very quick little, like just an ad on the airplane, literally. But I was like, ooh, explore. Let us explore. Like, so oh, I love triggers and the awareness they give us. And it's like, you have to have someone to go to with that of like, hey, this happened. What do y'all think about that? You know?
And I think that demonstrates like we can know something, we can read about something, we can know something, but do we truly understand it? And that's
As
where the
it's sunk
deep work.
into your
Yes.
body.
Yeah. Do we truly understand do we understand how we react to it? Do we understand how it really plays out in the multiverse, in society, in the relationships we have with one another? I think that's where we hit we're on the cusp until we can learn to truly understand the sensations.
Sensations. People get so caught up in sensation world, and that's why it is really useful. And I appreciate what Elise is saying, because you can land wherever you want to on your spiritual spectrum, but if you do it without having investigated, without having interacted with other people and teaching, and it's so easy to fall into the maybe the shame or the not remembering that you're allowed to change, you're allowed to grow. I had a lot of shame that I've recognized now as shame when I didn't see it before, of like almost resentment around, I've changed my opinion on something. I desire something else now. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you're growing. You're always going to grow. But the sensation stuff is rough. And this is where I like the kink, because when I say kink, or I say professional doming, or I say sex work, or I've had an OnlyFans, what's where it starts to, where we all have to slow down. And I would love the audience to slow down with me and take a breath and practice what Elyse was just demonstrating. What does your mind create when you hear that language? And it's not wrong. This is before you even cast judgment. You just watch the theater of your mind with curiosity, with fascination. You go, oh, This is what I think that is. Will that match up when I talk to other people? When I read a book? When I investigate that more deeply? And the sensation stuff is very, very intense because what we feel in the body, especially if we're uneducated about it, if we're still in an unconscious landscape about it, and that's okay. I don't want anybody to feel shame around that. We all start that way. And maybe because of certain backgrounds, like in my background, I got a little bit of a early exposure to certain spiritual practices in my culture. So like death was not such a big deal. So my nervous system was attuned in a way to see it as normal. So it's not a big deal for me to do that now in various ways. But if you have a nervous system where like you hear death or sex or something charged or even something political and you start getting the heart rate and sick in your stomach, it is a normal reaction for the primal animal within you to go, do not go near that. That's normal. That's okay. That doesn't mean that's actually keeping you safe. That doesn't mean that that is the way to always react. And it doesn't mean that you don't have control over those responses. And that's what working in the body, whether we're doing sex stuff or kink stuff or working out or evaluating who we are in this body, that can change. That's the transformation.
Love
So
that.
true. Yeah. And I think coming to the body, we're automatically told from a very young age, from generational commentaries or generational programming, that our bodies are the taint, that they're wrong, that they are unsuitable. You don't deserve certain things in life because your body doesn't look a certain way. And I think when we come to our body and we start incorporating that into our spiritual practices, that is a huge block for a lot of people. I know even in my practice, that's been a huge block that, it's a slow process, but you can work through it. And I'm working through it. And it's one of those things where you don't have to do it fast. Do it at your own pace.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. It's a very slow work. I mean, if anyone hasn't listened to it and you want more on this particular story, I never had sex ed I was in the Middle East as a high school kid. So the only sex ed I got was in fifth grade when we were still in the US. And it was just that you get a period, basically. That was all that was. And so in the Womb Witch episode that we did, and I think it came out in July with Angelica Merritt, I talk about this in more depth, but I didn't know about a cervix until like maybe a year ago. A friend of mine was talking about cervical orgasms, and I said, "Oh, that sounds amazing, but I haven't had kids." And she's like, I thought the cervix was like the womb, that like it comes in only for birth. I didn't understand. It's just like a gate or something up there. Like I'm still figuring this out. Even my husband, when we were first dating, we were talking about menstrual cycles and stuff, and he's telling me about ovulation. I was like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. I just thought it was like kind of a gumball machine of eggs up there. I didn't know you had to wait for one to come down, and he drew me a diagram of the fallopian tubes. I mean, I just never thought to look it up. So I'm constantly still learning literal body stuff like that. And much less the Middle East program. I mean, I think like when I look back at like what radicalized me, like some of the early moments were like when I was 13 or 14 and I saw a girl my age in full, not burqa. She had a abaya with her head cover with hijab, but she had her face showing, but she was like my age. And I like smiled at her and like she looked away and she was holding hands with this man. I assumed it was her dad because I was with my dad and it was the same age difference. And I just was like, oh, someone to talk to at the mall. Like that, like, you're a teenager. That's how I thought of it. And then it slowly dawned on me that that was her husband. And like that was definitely one of the early radicalizations for me. So like there's just so much of that comes in every time I think about anything to do with sex, like that comes up. So it's still, even though I've been on a very intentional journey of reclaiming this for 2.5 years now, it's still like realizing the way things are connected and, oh, that's hiding behind there, oh, that's still there, oh, that thing. I actually just read a thread about this 2 days ago that women are conditioned not to switch hips when we walk because we're told. often we're told that that's too sexual. I was told that several times growing up, especially walking into church. I remember we would come up from Sunday school and have to get into the pews, Greek Orthodox church, and they were like, walk different, basically. Like I literally was like, what? Like I'm just walking. Wild. And then that's actually something I teach in my classes in the Red Thread specifically. We do somatic work with the hips, but it never occurred to me that we are explicitly told not to do that so much from a very young age.
The veil is thinning, and I have huge news. This November 1st, I'm hosting my first ever in-person witchcraft festival in the U.S., Samhain Fest, in Havre de Grace, Maryland, from 1 to 9 p.m. on November 1st. I'll be guiding a powerful ancestor journey, and Leandra will be there with her Witchwood Tea House pop-up, teaching how to connect with your ancestors through tea magic and herbal lore. You'll experience a group past life regression with Quantum Journey, explore Divination Alley with tarot, astrology, and numerology readings, plus more, and shop a marketplace full of artisan witches and makers. What I'm most excited about is our Dumb Supper, a candlelit meal to honor your beloved dead. This is a once-a-year chance to feel the veil between worlds truly lift. Grab your tickets now at samhainfest.com and celebrate the old ways with us this Saturday, November 1st. That's SAMHAIN fest.com, or check the link in the description. The magic of Samhain is going to come alive.
Astonishing. Yeah, so much of who we are as women in female bodies, how we're controlled. And someone said something to me the other day that like hit home with the idea of patriarchy and how much it controls women in the whole spectrum of no woman in this world, or at least in the patriarchal culture in America, Western culture, has their mother's name. We all have a male name, our father's name. You know, even if our mother was named, if we kept our maiden name like I did when I got married, it's still my father's name. And that just hit me. I was like, wow, like that's how deeply rooted the control is. And that goes back to, you know, it seems so simple, but it goes into how we treat our body, how we think of our body, how we think of our magic, and that connection. It's amazing. It just astonishes me every single time.
In Greece, it's better and worse because women keep their last name, but their children take the husband's name. So you're outside of the family unit.
Wow.
Yeah. But of course, your name is your dad's still because you were a child, so you took it from your dad. And it gets even more weird in Greece. Like you have to name your first son, not have to, but like have to. Greek Orthodoxy is very conformist. You have to name your first son after the wife's dad. And in Islam, your first son has to be named Muhammad. Peace be upon him.
Is it okay for me to make some commentary on the religion stuff since it's coming up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sure,
And
go for it.
I thank you. And I want to tread very carefully in this space. I want people to know that I went to Smith College and one of my 2 degrees at a double major was comparative religious studies. So I don't come from a theological perspective. I come from a comparative perspective that also talks more about the impact of religion as a geopolitical system on humanity and culture and societies. Now, that might already be new for some people. Religions start out as ideas that eventually get more groups of people around them. And then some of those ideas gain political power and capital. And then they have a whole system. And often organized religion was about controlling resources. And we have to remember that theocracies were how most human societies started. Yes, there are examples throughout history of certain matriarchies. There are certain examples of that now, even presently. They're not as largely representative throughout, I would say, the global family of humanity. And there was never a period in human history where something was idyllic. Sometimes I read certain books where they're like, and then there was a matriarchy and everyone thrived. That's also not true. Human beings are complicated and infuriatingly sometimes very slow to evolve. But you see this reflected in religion, and we're talking about what we can call the trickle down effects of these larger geopolitical systems in our personal micro level lives. And so we could go into the minutia, right? And this is where we can fulfill my personal fantasy of having a Smith College level course on religion and spirituality and how witchcraft can be our personal activism against it. But I also want people to know that I vote for religious freedom, that people have the right. I will defend that. So I don't want anybody to hear an agenda that isn't mine in my words. I want to be very clear, and I'm going to claim the agenda out loud now. The agenda I have is for people, particularly women, but men have to do this work as well. And I work with men in that capacity. You need, before you dive into the minutia, all I want you to know, all I want you to think about when you have a judgment against yourself for any reason, did you inform the standards by which that judgment is being felt? Did you inform them? Did you make that standard for yourself? Whatever you are disappointed with in your own being, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, whatever the fuck it is, did you create that standard for yourself? And if the answer is no, then that's where your journey begins. Where did that come from? Where did that come from? And so, right, I want to pause there before I bring something else, so that somebody else can.
No, I think that's perfect. That's excellent, because that's a huge catalyst. When we don't stop and question, then we're not really getting to the root. And it's so important. So I appreciate you bringing that in. Yes.
And the follow-up, a practical application to that can sound insane. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to bring what sounds like insane to some people, right? The practical application to that is, if a client comes to me, typically a woman in middle age, I'm 44, so I'm already feeling the perimenopause stuff. Pussy's talking to me. Everything's fine. We're working it out. And so, a woman will come to me and go, I'm having these things, or I feel diminished, or however the pain point is framed. And if it's appropriate, one of the pieces of work I like for women to do is to do vaginal mapping work. And there's books for that, and we work with books. I don't have to watch that. This is not performative. Although if somebody needed help in that way, I would not hesitate to be in my clinical mindset as a facilitator and say, oh, okay, I see how you're touching yourself. Try this instead. The whole idea behind vaginal mapping is that, here's the fun part. You can learn how to have orgasms all kinds of ways. Now, of course we want that. I want that for everyone, regardless of the body you're in and how you identify. But what's actually going to happen as you breathe and you slow down and you learn to touch yourself with conscious awareness and not push for performative sexuality for yourself or for anyone else, or not push to make an orgasm when you don't even know totally yet the physiology of how your body works, that's when you start to do the reclamation work. That it doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't matter what I say. I want you to get to a point, it doesn't matter what anybody says. You are connected to your body, which means you're connected to your intuition and your power. And no matter who comes along to fuck with that, that is unfuckable with, because you've done the work to own it. And that is what geopolitical systems of organized religions sometimes try to take away from you. I'm saying sometimes because we live in a modern era where religious ideologies can also be celebrated as traditions in beautiful ways amongst family and friends that bring us all closer together. It doesn't always have to be evil and separate us. But I cannot pretend that we aren't all ruled and informed by religion or society telling us how to walk, how to stand, cross your legs. And it's not just women. When I have to work with men in their bodies for physical rehab, okay? Just, hey, can you move your pelvis like this? Because I need to loosen up your back muscles. It's already terror time. If I ask a man to do a pelvic circle, I'm not gay. I've never moved like this. Am I being sexual with you? And it's like, that has to be allowed to come forward without judgment and say, you're safe. Sure, maybe it does come up for you like that. But the purpose of your body is to be, in this context, treating your lower back. It's okay that your body has these other sensations coming up in it. Learn how to handle them like an adult. can't be an adult in your body if you are not occupying your body in agency. So once we start occupying our bodies with full agency, not only do we create power and we create empathy within ourselves that we can then share with others, we take away the darkness that hides predators.
Yes.
And when I'm right, because when I'm working in the
Yes.
Dom space and I'm working in the King space, and I'm not afraid of my Kali energy, she comes up hard, and I'm like, bring me the fucking predators in front of me now. And let me tell them there's a difference, because when you facilitate as a Dom, you are in a trusted position to help somebody with their body. And I need people to hear that so that you're safe. Explore on your own, practice. Watch 50 Shades of Grey. Get off on it. Please understand that that's not real kink. That's it. That's all I want. And by the way, porn wouldn't be a problem in our world if we just called it theater. Oh, I'm going to go watch some entertaining theater between actors pretending to do sex. And some of those actors may be doing it under duress, but I'm just going to go have a quick fantasy moment. If people framed it like that, no problem.
Difference. Total difference. That's why I love talking to you. That's why I love having our Zoom lunches together. Because you blow the lid off of things that need to be blown wide open. Like, and that idea that we have to be adults. Duh. It seems so obvious, but it's really not, because we're taught to deny things. We're taught to ignore things. We're taught to keep the shame quiet, which is where shame thrives. And yeah.
Your magic deserves to grow, even if you're still in the broom closet. You don't have to keep your practice locked away when you're in safe spaces. Witchcraft was never meant to be solitary. It's meant to be shared, taught, and woven together in community. If you listen to this podcast, you know me. I'm Elyse, an initiated high priestess, best-selling author, and your guide inside the Witch Codes, an 8-week deep immersion into real embodied witchcraft. Inside this container, you'll finally feel energy move. You'll learn to raise it, direct it, and ground it with confidence. No more second guessing. You'll know. My students say this work changes everything. Their confidence, their connection, their craft. If your heart is tugging as you hear this, that is your sign. It's time to stop feeling stuck at your altar and start feeling your power. Enrollment for the Witch Codes closes November 4th, and spaces are limited. Book your free discovery call with me and learn more at elisewells.com/witchcodes. I'll be waiting for you.
This has been so good. So tell our listeners where they can learn more about you and what's like. Do you have any events coming up? Anything big coming down the pipeline?
I do. Thanks for asking. Yes, there's the gram, which we'll see how that goes. Instagram is kind of going the way of speech censorship. I get blocked for talking about exercise bulimia from a personal perspective that I've rehabbed from. So like, but if I put my titties on there, it's fine. So we'll see what happens. So you can find me there. If you happen to be interested in more explicit sex magic practices, I have an OnlyFans, which is that gets interesting. My website. But what I would really like people to know that they can participate in is that at the end of October, the last Wednesday in October, which I think is the 30th, the 29th. And excuse
I
me.
think 29th, because the 31st, Halloween is Friday.
Yes. I'm so fucking excited to have a Halloween on a Friday. And so Wednesday night, I'm going to have a Death Witch dance party. And it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm very comfortable in my death witchness. I think everyone's a death witch. I think everyone's a witch. But I think that if this is new for you and it's unfamiliar, this is a place to come and hang out. I'm going to be talking about a grief craft guide that I have. I'm going to be talking about my Death Magic 101 workshop. And if those aren't of interest to you, I'm totally fine with that. I just want people to have a place to gather where it's safe I'm going to do a little ritual in the beginning where we can bring the ancestors in or any dead people you want to dance with or energies. and feel closer to them, feel in communion with them. That's something that I got culturally growing up that I feel very, very pleased with, that my relationship with people changes when they die, but it doesn't end. And I think that's a comfort that I take for granted that I want other people to have. So this is a way to do that. And I have a dope ass playlist. Like, we'll probably get through 3 or 4 songs. If people have questions about death magic, it's an open space. We'll dance a little bit. I'll come back to the computer, maybe take some questions, put on another dance song. It's a dope time. It's a very relaxed, a dope time. It's death time. I don't understand why people are so afraid of death. I gotta tell you, this is not all there is. Okay. And it's a really nice way to escape, to hang out with the dead when all of this craziness gets too intense. So come and hang out. Thank you for
send us that
great.
direct event link, because I want to be there. I think I can be. I'll double check my schedule, but that sounds amazing.
Yes.
And yeah, we will definitely
Excellent.
hopefully see some listeners there too. This sounds like fun.
Mhm.
Thank you.
That'd be fun.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. This was amazing.
I feel like I was given a blessing to just have conversation in which we don't have to edit or code switch so much.
None of
Right.
it. Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
Unfiltered. No questions written down.
all.
No prep. Literally just talking on email and now joining a call. Like, people, this is what people love about our show, though, I think, is
they do.
real conversations. You were just hanging out in the Magic Kitchen all together.
Yeah, and that's what people say whenever I meet them in person. They're like, "I love the podcast because it's just like you're having conversation. There's no script. There's no code words. There's no pulling punches. We just talk. Just have a conversation."
Thank you for letting me come on here and share with your listeners. I do like that language Leandra used, my blow the lid off of shit energy. I'm more comfortable. I'm more comfortable.
Put that in your bio.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I feel way more comfortable being in a space where I just get to be myself, which is typically seen as often too much and blowing the lid off of shit. So thank you.
Here.
Very, very nice. Yeah, I feel healed. I feel healed in your presence, ladies. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Merry meet.
Merry part.
And merry meet again. Thank you for joining us on the Magick Kitchen podcast. Please visit my website, leandrawitchwood.com, for news, information, and more episodes.
I'm Elyse Wells. You can learn more about my current offerings and my upcoming retreats to Greece at ElyseWells.com. That's ELYSEWELLES.com.